Vinicius Junior was supposed to be the guy. Real Madrid star, Ballon d'Or favourite, unstoppable on the left. But now, he's tweeting about revenge while struggling to show up. What happened to Vinicius this season? And how did one player make him go from Ballon d'Or contender to a nobody? Well, let's talk about it. The 2023-24 season was arguably Vinicius Junior's finest in a Real Madrid shirt. While Jude Bellingham made the headlines early on for his goal-scoring heroics, it was Vinicius who remained the team's most consistent and dynamic performer throughout the campaign. His impact stretched far beyond goals and assists. He was the player opponents feared the most, the one who dictated the rhythm of games from the left flank, and the one Real Madrid turned to when they needed inspiration. In La Liga, Vinicius was relentless. He finished the season with 15 goals and 6 assists in the league, but numbers alone don't explain the value he brought. His ability to stretch defenses and create space for others and carry the ball through high-pressure situations made him central to Madrid's tactical system. He was a link between midfield transition and final third execution, often receiving the ball deep and carrying it forward through dribbles, drawing fouls, or releasing perfectly timed passes into the box. His XG and XA contributions were among the highest in the league, placing him alongside the elite creators and finishers in Europe. In the Champions League, he elevated his performances. Vinicius registered 6 goals and 5 assists across the competition, including critical contributions in the knockout stage matches. He was instrumental in dismantling defensive setups, often drawing double or even triple marking, which created valuable space for teammates like Bellingham, Rodrigo, and Valverde. His performance against Bayern Munich in the semi-finals was one of his most complete displays. Relentless pressing, surgical dribbling, and a goal that changed the complexion of the tie. The partnership with Jude Bellingham on the left side became one of the most effective combinations in Europe. While Bellingham often played centrally, he drifted into half spaces where his movement and Vinicius' wide position created overloads. This synergy wasn't accidental. It was built on intelligent positioning, mutual awareness, and a shared understanding of space. Defenders struggled to cope with the duo, especially when Madrid switched to transitional play. Bellingham's late runs into the box thrived because Vinicius drew defenders wide and deep, opening lanes for Jude to exploit. What made Vinicius stand out was his evolution. No longer just a flashy winger, he had matured into a complete forward, one who tracked back when needed, made off-the-ball runs to destabilize opponents, and developed great composure in front of goal. His decision-making improved markedly, and his pass selection in the final third became sharper and more precise. He wasn't just Madrid's best attacker, he was their best player. So good was Vinicius that heading into the Ballon d'Or conversation, he was a legitimate contender. His performances matched the standard of previous winners, especially considering the weight of his contributions in domestic and European competitions. Even so, many believe Vinicius had done more than enough to at least be a finalist or the rightful winner, given his all-round performances, consistency, and ability to rise in the toughest moments. Real Madrid agreed. The club felt their star man had been snubbed and made a bold statement by boycotting the Ballon d'Or ceremony. Vinicius took to social media with a short but pointed message. "I'll do it 10 times if I have to. They're not ready." It was a defiant declaration, one that suggested he was ready to dominate again and leave no room for doubt the next time. The stage was set for a statement season. The spotlight was on, but then things started to shift. But before we continue this video on Vinicius Junior, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you. Heading into 2025, the narrative was perfectly set up. This was supposed to be Vinicius Junior's redemption arc. The Ballon d'Or snub had left a bitter aftertaste and the footballing world expected a fierce response. This was the same player who just months prior had been on every shortlist, who had dominated a Champions League final, who had led Real Madrid to a historic double. Now the anticipation was that he would come back with fire, with something to prove. But that revenge tour never truly began, at least not in the way people expected. The numbers tell a story far removed from the vengeance he promised. 11 goals and 7 assists in La Liga aren't poor numbers by any mean, but they're not Ballon d'Or material either. His Champions League contribution, with 10 goal involvements, offers some degree of redemption, but even those have been padded by group stage fixtures and less consequential moments. Since the turn of 2025, his form has nosedived. 6 goals, 5 assists, 2 missed penalties, 1 fading aura. That's not a revenge tour, that's a tour that never got off the ground. Worse still, the goals he has scored this year have lacked significance. 2 came in a meaningless win against a Salzburg side already eliminated from Europe. 1 came in a loss to Valencia. Only 1 goal, the second in a narrow win over Rayo Vallecano, can be reasonably called a match winner, and even that came when Madrid was already ahead. These are not the kind of moments Ballon d'Or winners are made of. In the same time frame, he's missed 2 penalties, one in a crucial Champions League knockout tie against Atletico Madrid, and another in a league clash against Valencia. 3 missed spot kicks this season in total. When Madrid needed him most, the execution faltered. Dig deeper into the analytics and the decline becomes clearer. Last season, Vinicius averaged 3.72 shots per 90. This year, 3.26. His shots on target per game have dropped nearly in half, from 1.83 to 1.01. His expected goals over performance has dipped too, from plus 1.9 to plus 1.4. It's a steady regression that aligns with the player struggling to influence games the way he once did. There are, however, a few technical areas where he has improved. His successful take-on rate has increased from 37% to 43%, and he's being tackled less. It suggests he's still a dangerous dribbler, still able to beat defenders, but the end product is falling short of elite. The issue may not be entirely internal. The elephant in the room is Kylian Mbappé. It was always going to be a delicate balance. 2 world-class talents, both fighting for the same space on the pitch. One is a towering figure of modern football. The other, an explosive force who'd built a reputation for fiercely taking on defenders. But when Kylian Mbappé joined Real Madrid, the balance tipped, and Vinicius Junior was forced into an identity crisis. Mbappé and Vinicius both play on the left wing. Both thrive when they have the ball at their feet, and both can light up a game in an instant. But there's one glaring issue. The more Mbappé succeeds, the more Vinicius fades into the background. Mbappe's arrival at Madrid has been nothing short of spectacular. With 19 goals in 25 appearances by early 2025, he's done exactly what Madrid brought him in to do, which is deliver in big games and provide the kind of elite consistency that Vinicius simply hasn't shown this season. Kylian has become the talisman of the team, while Vinicius, once the focal point of Madrid's attack, has been left struggling to find his rhythm. There is a tactical imbalance at play here that is hard to ignore. Both Mbappé and Vinicius are most effective when they're given freedom to cut inside from the left wing, using their pace and dribbling ability to create chaos in the final third. However, this leads to an issue. They occupy the same zone. It's not just a positional overlap, it's a clash of egos, ambitions, and playing styles. Mbappé is direct. He doesn't waste time. He's comfortable being the focal point, taking defenders one-on-one, or getting himself into shooting positions with ruthless efficiency. His movement is sharp, quick, and decisive. He's scored in crucial moments against Atletico Madrid, Man City, and even in the Clásico. He's a player who thrives under pressure, and it's hard to argue against the fact that his ability to rise to the occasion has made him indispensable to Madrid. Vinicius, on the other hand, is a more unpredictable player. His dribbling can be mesmerizing, his pace electric, but he's not as clinical as Mbappé. His finishing isn't as ruthless, and his decision-making in the final third has at times been questionable. As his form has dipped in 2025, the gap in their performances has become more apparent. Mbappé has continued to score, while Vinicius has struggled to make an impact. Let's take a look at the numbers. Mbappé has netted 19 goals in 25 appearances, an impressive strike rate that reflects his consistency and finishing ability. In contrast, Vinicius has only managed 6 goals in 2025, a far cry from the explosive winger who dominated in previous seasons. The disparity in their contributions is telling. But it's not just about goals. Mbappé has taken the lead in terms of big game performances as well. He was the standout player in the Champions League clash against Man City, and his equalizer against Atletico Madrid was a moment of brilliance when Madrid needed it most. Vinicius, on the other hand, has been less impactful in those crucial moments. His missed penalties, 2 so far this year, have only further diminished his standing as the team's talisman. Moreover, Mbappe's ability to create for others is also better. He's been directly involved in crucial goals, even if his assist numbers aren't as high as Vinicius's. But Mbappe's movement off the ball and ability to draw defenders away opens up space for teammates, which is a subtle yet vital aspect of his game. Vinicius has struggled with this, particularly in a Madrid attack that now revolves around multiple threats. The adjustment period has hurt Vinicius more than anyone. Where he was once the uncontested offensive talisman, he's now just one of 2 focal points, and the one being outshined. The tactical balance is made all the more complicated by Carlo Ancelotti's approach. The Italian manager is known for his adaptability, but he's also a man who thrives on harmony and balance within the squad. Ancelotti has spoken about the team's struggles in attack and defense, acknowledging that when Vinicius isn't firing, Madrid's offensive threat diminishes. But Ancelotti hasn't taken a clear stance on the Mbappe-Vinicius dilemma. There's no definitive strategy for how both can coexist without stepping on each other's toes. On paper, Madrid has two of the best wingers in the world, but in practice it's been a delicate juggle of egos and opportunities. Mbappe's arrival has made it harder for Vinicius to express himself in the way he did when he was Madrid's most explosive player. This tactical tug-of-war is only made more evident in key moments, when both players have been on the pitch together. The combination of Kylian Mbappe's brilliance and Vinicius' frustration means no clear hierarchy in the attack. It's a scenario where Vinicius' confidence has been eroded by Mbappe's rapid adaptation and his relentless pursuit of the spotlight, and it also did not help that Ancelotti was getting a bit frustrated with Vinicius. Carlo Ancelotti, as always, has kept his tactical approach minimal. He's a man of balance and calm, not a tinkerer or a systems guru, but even his patience seems to be wearing thin. In a recent Copa del Rey clash against Real Sociedad, Vinicius, frustrated by persistent fouling, complained to Ancelotti on the sideline. The manager's response was sharp and dismissive. "Don't talk, play." When the Brazilian refused to let it go, Ancelotti sent Brahim Diaz to warm up as a warning. Vinicius got the message. These moments may appear isolated, but they echo a larger theme: disconnection between Vinicius and his form, between Vinicius and his manager, between Vinicius and the expectations he created. The statement, "I'll do it 10 times if I have to," wasn't just about a trophy. It was about identity, about proving he belonged among the best in the world. But the follow-up hasn't matched the promise. His swagger is less convincing, his presence less threatening, and the aura that once made defenders hesitate is fading. Vinicius isn't just playing catch-up in the race for individual honors. He's fighting to re-establish control over his narrative. But with Madrid tracing glory on multiple fronts, that fight is far from over. But the window is closing. As the season comes to a close, Vinicius Junior is going to be left reflecting on what has been, by all accounts, a disappointing year. His performance this season has been far from the spectacular rise that many expected after his breakout in the previous campaign. With just 11 goals and 7 assists in La Liga, his stats are respectable, but they're nowhere near the levels of excellence he promised. His Champions League output, which at one point seemed like it could be a defining feature of his career, has barely kept him afloat. While not a disaster, his contributions have not been the game changers that fans, pundits, and the player might have hoped for. What makes this season stink even more is the success of his fellow Brazilian Raphinha over at Barcelona. While Vinicius has struggled to make an impact, Raphinha has been thriving. Barcelona are looking like one of the strongest teams in Europe and is on the verge of achieving something extraordinary, a quadruple. Having already won the Supercopa de España and the Copa del Rey, they have their sights set on La Liga and the Champions League, with Raphinha playing an instrumental role in their success. His form this season has been nothing short of exceptional. With the highest goals scored in the Champions League, Raphinha has firmly planted himself in the conversation as one of the standout players of the year. This form, combined with Barcelona's potential to win multiple trophies, gives him a genuine chance to be considered for the Ballon d'Or, a prize that Vinicius once dreamed of. The fact that Raphinha is in the midst of his best season, while Vinicius struggles, only adds salt to the wounds. As Barcelona celebrates their success, Vinicius is left to watch from the sidelines as his counterpart flourishes. It's a cruel twist of fate for a player who was once heralded as Brazil's future star, and now he's being overshadowed by a teammate from the same country. Looking ahead to next season, the challenges for Vinicius only seem to multiply. With Carlo Ancelotti's future at Real Madrid looking uncertain and the club likely to bring in a new coach, Vinicius faces the possibility of a tactical shift that may not favor him. If Real Madrid appoints someone like Xabi Alonso, known for his tactical discipline and preference for a more structured attacking system, the dynamic at the club could change drastically. Alonso, who values a traditional striker, might introduce a formation that sees Vinicius competing with Kylian Mbappé for a place on the wing. Mbappé, whose relationship with President Florentino Perez has long been a point of focus, is likely to be the favoured player, especially given his current form, which has seen him rack up an impressive number of goals and assists this season. In this scenario, Vinicius could find himself pushed to the right wing, or even on the bench if he's not able to regain his top form. The prospect of Mbappe and Vinicius competing for the same spot is a daunting one for the Brazilian. Despite his early promise, Vinicius may find himself in the shadows of a player who has been a consistent force in world football. The idea that he could be dropped, particularly after all the hype surrounding his potential, seems almost unthinkable. But in football, nothing is guaranteed. The potential arrival of Xabi Alonso, combined with the presence of Mbappe, makes next season a crucial one for Vinicius. If he is to live up to the expectations set upon him, he will need to rediscover the electric form that once made him one of the most feared wingers in Europe. But with competition heating up and the possibility of a coaching change, the pressure on him will only intensify. There's no doubt that next season could be one of the most important in his career, and how he responds to those challenges could define his legacy at Real Madrid. The most painful part of all of this for Vinicius is that he set lofty expectations for this season. He boldly proclaimed that he would do 10 times better than the year before, but as the season concludes, it's clear that those aspirations have not been met. The promise he made now feels distant, and with Raphinha's meteoric rise, the Brazilian winger finds himself in a situation where the future, rather than looking bright, is now full of uncertainty. If he doesn't make the necessary adjustments and rediscover his best form, the consequences could be dire, not just for his Ballon d'Or aspirations, but for his place in the Real Madrid starting lineup. As the season ends, Vinicius finds himself at a crossroads. The promise of a Ballon d'Or and the future stardom that once seemed so attainable now feels out of reach. Meanwhile, Raphinha's rise only highlights the missed opportunities. With potential coaching changes and fierce competition for his position at Real Madrid, Vinicius will have to fight harder than ever to prove he belongs at the top of the game.